Okay, so now we're ready to start programming our Go Fish game. So just to get you started, I have some functions here that I've already covered in other videos. Again, this is one of the powerful things about functions is their reusability. So there may be some subtle differences here. I think possibly Scramble was named something different. But what we have to start off with, so if you want to pause the video at any point so that you can get this content into your Go Fish game, that would be great. So we're going to start by including the vector library and the time library. We are going to have a display function to display all of the numbers in an array. So this is to display the user's hand. Also, this is a good tool. If something isn't working, you can display the deck. You can display the computer player's hand just to kind of test some things out. So this is, but primarily in the finished version, this is for displaying the computer's hand. Swaps two elements, and then scramble will mix up any array that we give it. It will be taking in a 52 card deck. So what it is going to be doing is it is going to be making 520 card swaps, one card for another card, and then we should have a pretty randomized result at the end. Okay. So let's go to the main program and create things sort of as we go. We're going to start with our variables and such at the beginning. So what we're going to need is, of course, we're dealing with random numbers. So srand time null. Okay, now for vectors, vector int deck, we'll need the deck that we'll be using. We'll have vector int user hand and vector int comp hand. Sometimes when I have some different variables or whatever I'm doing that have similar function, it's handy to have them, be of similar length so that when you copy and paste code, it'll look the same between those two examples. So we're going to have the turn, which player's turn it is. We'll have a request. So this is which card is being requested, and we only need the number because we're going to ignore suits. We'll have int user score. It's going to be 0. Int computer score, comp score, is also going to be 0 at the beginning. And then we're also going to have a Boolean variable called turnover, which is going to help us determine when a player's turn is actually done. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to need to now create the 52 card deck. So when you start a game, you shuffle the deck together. So I'm going to create a function called shuffle. And the only thing that it needs is it needs the deck. Also, I enjoy how easy some of these lines are when you put functions in. What does this line of code do? Oh, it shuffles the deck. So then what we're going to do is we'll go up to the top and we will create our shuffle function. So just go above int main. It is going to make use of the scramble function. So make sure it goes underneath the scramble function. So void shuffle. Now we're receiving the deck vector. And we will be making a change to it here because, of course, at the beginning, it doesn't actually have any cards in it. So we need to make sure that that is passed as a reference. Okay. Now, there are 13 different numbers. So int I equals 1, while I is less than or equal to 13, and I plus plus. So this is a representation of the 13 cards. We're not going to bother with calling the king, letter K. we're just going to, that'll be 13, queen will be 12, 11 will be the jack. It makes it a lot easier for the programming. Now, there are 13 cards. The important thing is that there are also 4 copies of each of those 13 cards. So what we want to do is we create an interior loop that will run all 4 of the copies of the card. So less than or equal to 4, J++, and this is 4 copies. And then what's going to happen here is we're going to have deck.pushback I. So if you take a look at what this does, the first time through the loop, I is 1. And then 4 times in a row, it's going to push a 1 onto the array. Then I will become 2. And then 4 times in a row, it's going to push a 2 onto the array. So that is a nice, handy double loop for getting 4 copies of all of the 13 cards. Now, when we're done with that, we're not quite finished. We want to make sure that it's mixed up. So scramble deck. So what this is going to do is it'll take the deck that we just created, and it's going to mix up all the cards. And because everything is a reference parameter, it'll go back to the main program, and then we'll be totally happy. Now, just to check it out, let's display it. Display deck. And we'll see what we get. Okay. So if you take a look at this, this is the 52 card deck with all of the numbers mixed up. So we're ready to go. Now, when I do a testing line like this, I may decide that I need it later. So I'm just going to turn this into a comment. And then if I ever need to turn that back on again, I can totally do that. Okay, so the first thing that I did was I created the 52 card deck. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to deal 7 cards to each player. So here, for int I equals 1, while I is less than or equal to 7, because it's 7 cards, I plus plus, what we're going to do is we will create a deal function that is going to take the deck and put something in the user hand. Now let's do both of them at the same time. And you can imagine a real game, you would alternate between the players usually. So then we're going to have deck, and this one will be going into comp hand. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to be creating the deal function here. Now, in order to do this, what we have to do is we have to use a version of another function that we've done before to place the cards in the correct order in the hand. So in order to do this, we are going to make another one called void, and I'm going to call it sort place. So it places into a sorted array. We're going to have a number that we're putting in and the vector that we're putting it into. So this one is just numbers, just to make a generic case for this. So if numbers.empty, then what we're going to do is numbers.pushback, we'll put n, because this will be the first value that we put in here. So this is the easy case. Otherwise, we need to find where it goes. Find where it goes. So we're going to need to traversal array. So for int I equals 0, while I is less than numbers.size I plus plus. And then what we're going to do is if we find a number that is larger, so numbers I is larger than n, so this means we found a larger value. Oops, There we go. So we found a value larger than n. What we're going to do is we'll insert it here. So numbers.insert numbers, so we'll start at the beginning, dot begin plus I. And then in this place, we will be putting n. So that number will get placed there. And then we can break because we have found where it goes. Otherwise, what we're going to do is potentially get to the end of the array. So else if I equals numbers.size minus 1. So this is an indication that we have reached the end of the array. Then what we're going to do is put it at the end. So numbers dot pushback, numbers.pushback n. So we're going to just drop it at the end, and again, then we're just going to break out of here just for the sake of consistency. Okay, so this one is going to put the number where it's supposed to go in the hand. Now we're ready to create our function that actually deals a card. So void deal. So now what we are receiving is a deck of cards, and then we're also going to be receiving the hand of cards. We're going to be making changes to both of these, so they're both reference parameters. So we've got the deck and the hand. What we're going to need here is we're going to need an integer for the actual card we're drawing. So the card is always just going to become whatever the first card in the deck is, which is just deck sub 0. Then what we're going to do is we'll have to erase that card from the deck. So deck.erase. Now to get rid of the first one, we just put deck.begin. And then we're going to use sort place to put it where it should go. Sort place, let's put card here, and then we're going to be putting it in hand. So we're going to put the card in the hand in the sorted place. Yeah, good. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll take a look. We'll display, just to test it out, what the user hand looks like, and then the computer hand. Display comp hand. Okay, so let's see what we get. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you can see that they're both in sorted order. So now in the next program, what we're going to be doing in the next video is we'll be checking to see if we received 4 of a kind of any of those numbers.